All right, welcome everybody. Today we have something very special for you. It is a Blade Master guide, and we're going to do it with a bit of an interview, kind of an interview style. I have here my good friend, MrLevi. I'll go ahead and let him introduce himself. MrLevi, I already know what your name is, but can you tell us what server you play on and what guild you are in currently?
Yes, I play on the first server, Scarbear S1, an NA region, and I'm in the Guild Obsidian.
Obsidian. Shout out to Obsidian. Okay, so class description. So you play a Blade Master. Can you explain to us just kind of what it does and just some of the things that make it special as a class?
Yeah, so Blade Master basically drops a dot on the opponent and then goes AFK for a few minutes before it has to drop the dot again. No, but Blade Master just does a lot of damage in PvE and in PvP. The damage over time is definitely a lot more than the burst is. However, you can pretty much do everything. You're just a pure DPS class.
Yeah, and you guys
Not
are
much
like,
more than that.
yeah, and you guys are on top of the meters pretty much in every fight, at least the ones who are moderately geared.
Absolutely.
A lot of uptime from being able to drop a dot on the boss, perform a mechanic, and return and reapply that dot. So it's definitely a super strong class. On that token, while we're talking about strengths, what does it do well? Is it more of like a single target AOE, and what are some differences between PvP and PvE?
It's definitely single target. Despite the tier 1 set increasing the AoE damage, you don't want to use that skill. You're single target in PvE and PvP. I would say in PvP, you definitely want to go a bit more bursty of a build. In PvE, you're full dot damage, all single target dot. So on bosses, you're pretty crazy.
Gotcha. Yeah, and we'll go into the skills and the talents in just a moment, but actually, yeah, let's do that right now. Let's go into the skills. So go through each skill if you could, please, and kind of discuss what each of them does. You can talk about buffs to certain skills, or just talk about how good certain skills are to show people what makes your class just good and fun to play.
Yeah, absolutely. So the first skill is probably the one you're going to be using more than any other. It's Crescent Razor. You spam it a lot. I like to go with the sharp engraving on it because there's more damage. I would go with sharp over control so that you can run out of energy to proc force release, which we can go into a little bit more later. But yeah, you're basically just spamming this to gain malice. Go for the throat. The second skill, once again, I like to go with sharp. However, crit is pretty good too if you have a low crit rate. It's basically your big hitting burst skill. You just use it when you have 5 malice, even 4 malice. Just mostly you're going to be spamming Crescent Razor and go for the throat. Phantom Slice. Phantom Slice is the bread and butter skill of this class. It is so strong. It applies a dot on the target, as you can see here. It applies 405% at level 10, 405% plus 3806 bleeding damage every 2 seconds.
Wow.
And it lasts up to 22 seconds with a 5 malice hit. So that's a lot of damage over time.
That's so long too. That's 22 seconds. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and we'll go over how to make that even stronger when we get to masteries. And once again, I do like going with the sharp engraving. The other two just aren't that useful. There's no real reason to go with either broad or agile, so sharp is my choice. Fan of knives. Generally, you're never going to use this. If you're doing like mass PvP and it's kind of hard to single someone out, yeah, you can spam it a little bit. Or if you're just trying to clear ads in an overlord, yeah, you can spam it a little bit, but it's not a very strong skill. It doesn't do much damage. Once again, I like going with sharp because the energy cost isn't that high, so you can just kind of spam it. You'll keep regaining energy. But in most cases, I'd say don't use it. Stealth. This will, in PvP, you buff it up a lot with the mastery, which once again we can go into that in a little bit. In PvE, you're mainly gaining it for that additional attack to use before Phantom Slice to make your Phantom Slice stronger. You definitely want you want to go with Mighty Power so you have 2 charges of it. That's one of the best engravings in the game, and once you make a new rogue, any rogue, the first thing you want to do is get stealth to level 6 and get the Mighty Power engraving. Shadow Stride. Um, it's during your stealth or shadow dance, and shadow dance is when you use stealth mid combat. You're able to use this skill. It does damage to the target, puts a bleed on them, and stuns them. It's 1 second base stun, but it does stun for an additional 1 second if you go with the assault engraving. In PvP, definitely go with the assault engraving. In PvE, sharp is better. And then there's snake reflex. It basically gives you a lot of dodge and some resistance, and gives you some movement speed for a bit. It's more of, I guess, similar to your smoke bomb, which is your escape. It's more of like a panic skill. It's amazing against physical damage classes because they'll just miss over and over against you. You just dodge everything. And I like going with the Blitzkrieg engraving just to get all that extra movement speed. However, the other two are both useful as well. I would say delay's a little better just so you can have that effect for 2 seconds longer. But agile is also useful. Like any of these you can go with, to be honest. And then the last skill, Smoke Bomb, which you can't level up. You just get it to your escape. When you drop below 60% health, you can use it and you go into stealth. You get some immunity. You just get out. I would also, if you don't mind, Dante, I would like to go over the passive a little bit because the passive is a little bit complex with this class. It might take me a minute to explain it.
Yeah, go ahead, man. I don't know who Dante is, but that's fine.
I'm
I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
Dantes.
Go ahead,
Hey, we're
man.
friends, okay?
We're actually friends. You can do
Yeah,
that.
we're actually friends.
I'll allow it.
All right, Farouk. My bad. So basically, the passive for Blade Master is really, really interesting. The first part of it is you gain parry equal to your critical level, so you do parry a lot. So in PvP, if you're fighting a physical opponent, make sure you're always facing them, facing away
that's
from
good
them.
advice.
Of course, you cannot parry. And then your attacks have 30% chance to inflict Blade Wave, which applies another bleed, and that actually adds a lot of damage. Blade Wave is pretty crazy. So that works on auto attacks and it works on skills. 30% chance, like I said. There's with the tier 2 Blade Master set, you'll actually apply an additional stack with Go for the Throat and with your Phantom Slice, so that adds a lot more damage too. Maybe we can talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is a lot of info. I'll let you finish with that,
Yeah.
but try to stick around. Don't get lost because we're gonna tie this all in and make it make sense. We're just going through and doing the dirty work of
Absolutely.
understanding the skills.
Absolutely. I just want to go over this passive skill. It doesn't really have much to do with anything else, but it's really detailed and it's important to understand what it does. Those bleeds, they actually last for 8 seconds and they tick every 2 seconds, and there is no cap to how many times they can stack, so they can just keep stacking if you're lucky getting them proccing. Then next is Phantom Slice or Shadow Stride will regenerate 10 points of energy every 2 seconds during the Blade Wave. That energy regen is pretty nice. You can spam more of your Crescent Razors. Effects last as long as the bleeding is active. So the 8 seconds, like I said. Go for the Throat will inflict deep wounds, reducing the healing received by target for 50% for 6 seconds. So that's just healing reduction when you use Go for the Throat. Your Shadow Stride will inflict a cripple effect, reducing the physical damage dealt by the target by 50% for 6 seconds. That's amazing too against physical, like other rogues or archers or weapon masters. Like reducing physical damage by 50% for 6 seconds almost guarantees you win those fights.
Wow.
That's a lot. So once again, whenever your Malice generating ability lands a crit strike, generate an extra Malice, which is also pretty nice for your Malice economy. And that's the whole passive. I know it's a lot, but it's very important that people kind of understand.
Wow. Thank you for that. Okay, so if we were kind of to put into a quick synopsis, we went over the skills. They can see the glyphs. Again, which skills are you leveling first? Just name them off.
Definitely level stealth to 6 first. Once you get stealth to 6, like I said, you want to go ahead and grab that mighty power engraving. After that, you can kind of level the other ones a bit equally. Prioritize Phantom Slice, Crescent Razor, and then go for the throat. But you kind of want to level them a bit evenly. But like I said, if you have to choose Phantom Slice, then Crescent Razor, then go for the throat after you get stealth to 6.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, let's see. Let's move on to the mastery because you explained the passive, and I'm sure that's going to tie into the actual rotation itself, understanding the mastery. But or the passive rather. So let's go to mastery. Show us what you got, and then if you have other masteries leveled, why did you do that?
Yeah, so first of all, the best mastery for PvE is hands down the illusion mastery. Like I said before, Phantom Slice is most of your PvE damage. It deals so much damage over time, and this just increases it by a bunch. Of course, not many people are going to be able to get tier 4 mastery, but at tier 4, like I have, it does. Phantom Slice does do 150% increased bleeding damage. That's like multiply that 405% or whatever by 2.5. Like it adds up to a lot. And Shadow Stride, of course, does additional bleeding damage. It's not going to be that much, like because the damage in the beginning is not that high. The main thing is the Phantom Slice, and each tier that goes up by I think 25%. So just getting into tier 2 or tier 3 is fantastic. It just adds so much damage. That's what makes this class amazing in PvE.
Wow.
Then looking at the Night Ninja Mastery for PvP, this is definitely the one to use. I personally think it's the most broken mastery in the game for PvP.
Why is that?
Why is that? Where to start?
Break it down for somebody who knows nothing about your class.
All right, so first of all, it greatly increases your physical damage. Like you see, minus 79.5%. Most people's are going to be lower. It greatly increases your critical strike chance. That's a wombo combo right there. Crit damage plus crit strike chance. Pretty crazy. Shadow Dance also lasts 5 seconds longer, which, I mean, having a buff that crazy that lasts 5 seconds longer is awesome. You get even more movement speed during it, so you're just running super fast, and every time you cast it, you get invincibility for 2 seconds. And when I say invincibility, I mean invincibility to everything. You can even like cleanse living bombs off yourself with it. It's pretty insane. Oh, not to mention you also get an additional charge of stealth, so you can have up to 3 if you have the mighty power engraving on stealth. While other rogues may do better with this mastery, it's still insane on Blade Master just because the mastery itself is crazy. And then of course you'll want to level your quick blade mastery at least to tier 2 just for the stats.
So when you say stats, is that giving you the extra dexterity?
Yeah, it gives you some extra dexterity and vitality.
Gotcha. Yeah, so just so people know, if you don't know that already, you can level all of your masteries up. Try to get your main one at least to tier 3, and then all the others at least to tier 2, because you get, even though you're not using your other masteries, you get additional main stat or dexterity or intellect, whatever your class is, for at least having them leveled up, just so you know that. Okay, let's actually move on to the talent tree. Let's take a look at which deck do you have equip, PvP or PvE?
I've got my PvE on right now.
Okay, so let's go through the PvE. Let's just do it rather quickly. If you guys want to, if you think there's any additional points that need to be made, you can touch on it, but just go through and just list them off quickly. And then if there's something specific with your class or a reason why you chose something that is not obvious on the face of it, then go ahead and explain it.
Gotcha. I'll go over class specific things.
Cool.
So bravery, of course. I'll have to go over a little bit on vicious. Vicious is really awesome because it increases your attack speed, and the more attack speed you have, the more stacks of blade wave you can put on the opponent. So that's amazing. Just more dot damage. It's just a lot more damage in general. For PvE, for PvP, Call the Weak is pretty good. Agile, more attack speed, self-explanatory. Force release. You really want to proc it before you use your Phantom Slice every time, so it's amazing to have this up. Once you use it, that's 18% if at level 5 more damage that your Phantom Slice is going to do. That's significant. Then Sharp Edge, Saw Blade, they're both really good. I have a lot of Reforges and Saw Blade. I went heavier and sharp edge with this build. I'm kind of playing with that, but normally I do go full into saw blade. But if your crit's low, definitely go more on sharp edge. Ruthlessness, it's amazing when the target's below 20% health. I wouldn't necessarily prioritize this for reforges, but definitely go with it. Sundering Blade, self-explanatory. Desperate Strike, amazing, just amazing ability or talent rather.
Yeah, it's really good talent because especially you can, if you're taking 10% increased damage, you have your immunity. You can just shrug off big attacks from boss fights.
Then in the strategist tree, I go primarily into cunning. Once you have that 103% accuracy rate or hit rate, you can go ahead and take points off and put it into movement speed. But I need 10 to hit that 103%. Unyielding will, just lower the CC, self-explanatory. Precision, I was using focus, but I switched to precision because I don't want my mana abilities to be too cheap, or I can't proc force release that often. So I actually switch to precision just so that I don't generate mana that much.
Gotcha.
Or so that I can proc the force release rather. Tactical plan, self-explanatory, get that crit. That's the PvE talents, and I would say they're pretty similar for PvP.
What would be the difference in PvP if somebody wanted to have another deck?
The only difference I'd make is switching Vicious to Call the Weak. And
okay.
That's not even 100% of the time. If you face a lot of healers, Vicious is amazing. Reduce their healing.
Okay, so it sounds like you can just pick PvE and just kind of stick with it and have a good time.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, let's take a look at your sigils. Open up your sigil menu, and what I want to ask is, so the main goal here as a DPS class, of course, you're going for predominantly your main stat, crit and haste, right? You don't really care about defensive skills or dodges. Is that a fair assumption?
That is correct.
Okay, so what kind of thresholds are you looking at, and what are you prioritizing?
It's gonna be different for PvE and PvP. So for the reds, no matter what, you're gonna go dexterity and intellect.
Of course, yeah.
Or I'm sorry, dexterity and spirit. That's just obviously gonna be the best. There's no other good options for red. For purples, for PvE, all the way dexterity, spirit, dodge. For PvP, you can use crit rate. The crit rate's really nice. For yellow, for PvP, use crit rate, PvE haste, and for blue, for PvE, use dex. I happen to be using a haste blue because I got lucky and pulled a level 6 one. But normally just use the dexterity ones, and for PvP, use crit rate.
Okay, great. And what can you open your character menu and show us what your crit and haste are at right now, just to get an idea?
In my PvP build right now, I am at 60% crit, 53% haste. I did, like I said, remove some crit damage, so I'm at 170% there.
Oh my gosh.
I did finally break 10,000 attacks, so I'm pretty proud of that.
That's so stupid, dude. That's crazy. Okay, well that's enough of that. Let's if we can move on to your gear. And I want to so again, with gear, the main stats you're looking for is the DPS class is going to be crit versus haste. With your gear, are there any things that are mandatory in terms of items? Is it just the legendary weapon that's mandatory, or are also some legacy pieces mandatory? What would you say? What's the balance between crit and haste?
I don't think necessarily a legendary weapon is mandatory. If it's too expensive for you, just don't build it. Obviously, if you can build it, you have the resources, go for it. I think the greatsword is the best. I did some testing between different ones, and I definitely got the best results from the greatsword. And I think the tier 6 effect also backs that up.
It actually it looks the coolest too. Definitely.
Yeah, it looks the coolest too. Yeah.
That's so stupid looking. Wow.
As far as the accessories go, the legacy pieces rather, like the earring, the rings, the necklace, I would even say the legacy offhand. You can kind of do a mix between crit and haste. I wouldn't go all for crit unless you only want to focus on PvP. I wouldn't go all for haste unless you only care about PvE. If you kind of want to do both, I would go for a mix. But like I said, if you only care about PvE, going full haste is pretty good. Only care about PvP, full crit. As far as the armors go, tier 1 set's pretty bad. Tier 2 set is absolutely amazing. Nobody has it yet. People might have
Wow.
one piece right now, but it's going to be fantastic. Like I said, just here, I'll pull that up right now.
Yeah, let's take a look at tier 2. Just go through the 2 set bonus and the 5 set bonus.
I'll look at tier 1 first. Like, it increases your fan of knives crit chance and your fan of knives crit damage. Like
Which
I
is
said before,
useless.
Fan of knives, you just don't want to use it. It's just not good. Tier 2 though, however, as it says, go for the throat and phantom slice will add an additional stack of blade wave when landing a hit. And like I said, blade wave just adds like a whole lot of damage to your DPS. I'll actually show that whenever we go over the rotation.
I'm excited for that. So before we move on, we're making our way down almost at the rotation. Show us what pet you have. We'll see your pet.
What pet I have? I would say right now I'm using Dada. I think it's pretty good because it gives the 1.5% haste, 1.5% crit rate. Just those flat bonuses are pretty awesome in my opinion. And then of course, it's not the 12% that the Fat Cat gives, but getting the armor and resistance kind of gives you a little bit of utility. And you do get 9% crit damage that you can use before you use your go for the throat. So it's still I think it's the best pet overall.
And just for your class or in general?
For this class.
Okay, I was gonna say, wow. Okay, great. Let's go to. He's a popular dude. Let's go to your artifacts, and we're gonna make our way through these quickly, and then the section after that is gonna be the rotation. So artifacts next. Just take us through one by one. Tell us what the mandatory artifacts are, because you can get 2 skills to 5 on that bottom tree. So yeah, just take us through them one by one. Tell us what you're looking for, and just touch base on it. Kind of a brief overview.
I know what it is. It's World Boss.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Obsidian. Please forgive me.
you're gonna be
so they can't invite me.
Oh, dude, you're gonna be immortalized for this.
No, please forgive me. I'm sorry.
Okay, so artifacts. Let's go.
So first of all, I have Saw Blade +5, Force Release +2 on the Flonus. I think that's an amazing roll. It's like near perfect. Sharp Edge, Ruthlessness on Eudora, Bravery, Ruthlessness on Delos. Kaya's, I got Saw Blade and Force Release only +1. And on Artianos, or however you say that, I think it's Artianos, I got Sundering Blade, Desperate Strike. When I want to think about what to prioritize, I think number 1 is going to be Desperate Strike. Desperate Strike is fantastic. You don't even care about the 10% increase damage taken. You just think about getting that much more damage dealt. Right now, I think mine is at level 4, so I'm doing 12.5% more damage, just like a flat increase.
That's why you're beating everybody, because your freaking Desperate Strike is stupid.
Yeah, Desperate Strike is pretty crazy. Second most important, for sure, is going to be Force Release. Like I said, if you proc that before you use your Phantom Slice, that just makes the whole Phantom Slice do 18% more damage. Fantastic. When it comes to the third most important, definitely I would say Ruthlessness. Ruthlessness might not necessarily be the best skill, but whenever we compare it with everything else, I think it falls in at number 3. If you get a good stat roll or a good top line with a Vicious, you could go for it. However, I think your class attacks so fast that it's not necessary, but I would say Vicious would be a 4th. As far as the top line stats go, I think number 1, the best is Bravery. After that is going to be Saw Blade, and third would be Sharp Edge.
The Sharp Edge, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it for artifacts. Now, this is probably what everyone's here for. Playstyle. Let's go to the dummies, and if you're there already, great. Show us your PvE rotation. Let's do single target PvE rotation.
All right, so I'm not gonna lie, this class doesn't really have much of a rotation. However, we'll kind of show what the priorities need to be. It's more of priorities when you have cooldowns. rather than a rotation.
Okay, so it's kind of an easier class to play than you would say.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop my pet skill, pop force release, and also shadow dance, and then I'm going to use phantom slice. What that does is going to increase the damage of phantom slice for the entire duration. Then I'm going to spam a whole bunch of crescent racers, and go for the throats in between my phantom slices. I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like right now.
And go ahead and talk us through it too.
Yeah, go ahead and see a proc force release, that pet skill, and then phantom slice. Then just spam crescent razors, go for the throats. And you'll see the DPS jump up a lot here.
When those dots kick in.
We see the phantom slice coming off cooldown. Make sure force release is procced. Go ahead and pop it again. I got it there on the tail end of force release, but as long as we get it, it's good. Once again, a stealth, crescent razor. See, this is basically the whole fight. There's nothing special after this. Just rinse and repeat, same things over and over.
What would you do in an AoE situation?
You don't.
What do you mean you don't?
Your AoE is trash. All you're gonna do is just spam this horrible skill called Fan of Knives, and then throw down your bleed every once in a while. Then throw down a random go for the throat. I'm showing on the screen right now. It's nothing special.
Yeah, but okay, so that's it though, right? You just throw a Fan of Knives in.
That's it. I'd like to point out, whenever you see, I'm gonna show real quick on the dummy. You see how I'm auto attacking here. Blade Wave, I don't know why it's not called Blade Wave. It's whenever you look at the skill on the dummy, that's actually inner wounds. So I just want to show right now how much it does. My character is literally only auto attacking. I'm not using a single skill, and look at all that damage from just that bleed, inner wounds, and it'll keep going up too. We can see right here the stacks on the target. Inner wounds right now is 5 stacks, 6 stacks, 7 stacks. It goes up and down. Each stack lasts 8 seconds. I just wanted to show that. That's what I meant by the blade wave. The inner wounds doing a lot of damage. It adds up. So getting more stacks of that from your tier 2 set is pretty big.
Okay, now what about your PvP rotation? I'm gonna put up some PvP gameplay here. Can you just explain your mindset? You enter a match. What do you want to do? What are you looking to do?
I'm actually gonna put on my PvP mastery just so I can show it.
Yeah, we'll show it and then we'll put some gameplay up.
Okay, so I quit my Night Ninja. Like I said, Night Ninja is the PvP. So you're definitely gonna want to start stealth. Okay, so let's say this is your target. Maybe it's physical damage. You're hoping to it doesn't really matter. You're gonna use Shadow Stride anyway, but if you get that cripple, it's massive. There are a couple ways to open. If it's a class that can get out of CC really easy, I would not use Phantom Slice. Or if it's a class that can get rid of their dot, like has an invincibility, I also would not use Phantom Slice. However, if it's like a class like Lightbringer or just something that doesn't have invincibility, you could jump on it, use Phantom Slice at the beginning, like I'll show here. Jump on it, use Phantom Slice, then use a couple crescents, product stealth, jump in, use your go for the throats. Generally, they'll be dead by then. However, if it is a class that does have something like an invisibility, like another rogue or a dark sage that has fate to miss, I would probably jump in out of stealth. So your stealth, Shadow Stride into a couple crescents. Go ahead and proc your stealth again. Go for the throw. Jump in. Go for the throat again. That's basically it. Your ultimate is not super great. It's actually horrible in PvP. It's okay in PvE, I guess. if you want to use it to like not get knocked back. But in PvP, just never use it. That's basically my mindset. You kind of want to find a weak target to jump on. Like I said, you counter physical targets a lot more, so jump on physical targets if possible. You can use the Phantom Slice, or you can use the Go for the Throat, depending on what defensive options the enemy has. That's basically it.
Okay, awesome, my dude. Bro, just want to thank you for coming on and explaining that. I hope that that was clear to everyone. And I just want to say before we kind of close out here, if you have any questions, go in the comment section down below and just ask it. I'll have Levi monitor this video, and he'll do his best to kind of answer the questions that you might have, or if you need clarification, I'm sure he'd be more than happy to do so. Is that right to assume, Levi?
Yeah, totally.
Ask the good questions, and he'll be there to give you the good answers.
Absolutely.
So just want to thank you, Mr. Levi, for coming on. This was fun, dude. Thank you for doing it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
No
this
problem.
has been good, my dude. Looking forward to making more of these guides with more top players. And so subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and like the video if you enjoyed. Until next time,
I'm
enjoy
the
your
best.
day. Well, dude, you took the classic enjoy your day.
I got him.
Defeated.
You got to end it on that.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, I'll end it on that.